Good evening and welcome to this demo of training and applying machine learning models in Influence for Desktop. So in order to tackle this lab, what we're going to do is we're going to break it up into two components. The first part will be training the model and preparing the test data. And the second portion will be creating a new workflow to score that test data. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to create a new workflow called model training. I'll go ahead and save that somewhere easy to find, like on my desktop. Replace the current one that's there. Won't need that anymore. All right. So starting out with some data, as always, I'm going to grab a data set that I've saved in a CSV file in my file system. It's going to be the iris data set. And I happen to know that the first row does not contain headers, so we'll go ahead and bring that data in. Let's take a look. Sure enough, we have 4 features, 0, 1, 2, and 3, and a label in column 4. The next thing that we need to do is we need to take this set of data and we need to break out some sample data, or some test data, I should say, from the training set. So to do that, we'll use a tool here from the Transform tab called Sample. It is right here. I'll drag it onto here. Of course, if you're new to this application, the other way of finding tools is to use the tool library. And you can search for things. So if we were looking for the sample one, I would be able to find it here and drag it on just as I had. But I pulled it here from the tab, so we're good. I want to take a percentage of the data, so I think I will just do 15% of the data, randomly selected, and I'll break it out into a new table. So split data from source, and I'll name it test data. Great. All right, let's see what that did. So now we have this table test data. It contains, see exactly, it looks like it contains 21 rows. Great. And they've been split out from the other data set. So we are now good to train our model. So we're going to train a k-nearest classifier. So I'll snag that out of the Analyze tab. Training data is the source. And now what we need to do is we need to pick our attribute columns. So we'll do that here. Order does not matter when you're training, but the thing to remember is when you're applying, you need to select your attributes in the same order when you're applying onto the test data. But we'll look at that when we get there. And of course, now we take our training label, which we remember is in column 4. We don't want to apply this to any data right now, so uncheck that. I'll grab 5 neighbors, slightly arbitrary. I will turn on feature scaling. And now I'm going to save this as a model. So I'll call it iris species predictor. And description, predict the species of an iris from its petal and sepal measurements. Great. Sounds good. Let's train our model. Aha, it looks like that worked. Save this. Now we need to do 2 more things in order to be ready to score. We need to output our test data. I'm going to rename these so we're doing our due diligence in keeping our workflow clean. All right. And so to export, we go to output, and I want to export the model, and I also want to export the test data. So I'll do that as a file. I'll put them on my desktop. Species predictor sounds good. I want to keep the dependencies, so I won't check this. And we're good. Let's run it. Finally, I'll output the test data. We're going to need this. Call it test data iris. It's good enough. Desktop. And it's CSV. Great. Save this one last time. But we now have a trained model and we have some test data to score on. So let's go ahead and I'll flip over to a new project and let's score the iris predictor. So the first thing we need to do is we need to bring in our test data. So I'll do that here. I'll go to my desktop, test data iris, and in this case the first row may contain headers. Let's see. It did. It also brought in this column unnamed. We won't need this. This is just the old index from our old table that we exported. So I'll just use the drop tool here to get rid of that. That way it's not going to be in our way later on. Let's just drop this one unnamed. Bang. Great. Now it's gone. All right. So the next thing we need to do is we need to get our model back into our project. I'll go to here, species predictor, that's the one. Keep the same name and description, and we'll run it. And now something we forgot to do when we were training, but I'll do now, is I'll go over to the models gallery, and you can see we have a model inside of our model registry here. It's got the description that we said, and it also shows you the attribute columns 0, 1, 2, 3, and the type. So it's a K-neighbors classifier, sklearn model. So there we are. This is just how you can keep track of your models. You can also filter by type should you need to, and sort them if you have a lot of models in your registry. That is not likely to happen, but there you go. Alrighty, so I'll close this. Now we should be ready to score our model. So back we go, and to score, we'll grab the K-nearest classifier tool again, but we're going to do things a little differently. Instead of training a new model, we're going to use an existing model. There's only one model in our registry right now, iris species predictor, and now we do need to apply the model to some test data. We only have one table, but now what we'll do is we'll pick the same columns in the same order, and we'll say predicted species. We don't need to save it again as a project model. If we did this, we would just duplicate it. Kind of silly. Alright, and let's score. Well, it looks like it finished. I'll go ahead and save this while I'm here. I'll overwrite this old scoring flow that I had. Ta-da! Okay, let's take a look at what happened. So we had a species here in column 4, and we have now predicted a species. Just taking a glance over, it looks like most of them are right, but this is a good way of finding out how well we did. If you head back to the Analyze tab, we can grab this Evaluate tool, and this will evaluate classification models. So we grab our table of data, our test data, the actual values, which remember we're in column 4, the predicted values, which are this predicted species column, the model, which we've already selected, and what we're going to do is it's going to generate an accuracy score and a confusion matrix. So I'll just pick some colors, try to make it look nice, not normalize it for now. Let's run this. Alright, cool. So if you head over then to the Visuals tab, you can see a confusion matrix gets generated. What this does is it shows actual versus predicted, and the numbers that overlap between the actual values and the predicted values. So you can see we were right looking at this angled line of boxes here. We are right all except one time here. So that is pretty good. Not insane. But the other thing that we can do is if you right click on the Evaluate Model block and you say Properties and Description, and you look at the metrics, it'll give you the accuracy score. 0.95 here was the accuracy score for this model. So cool. That, I guess, isn't that terrible. So that was how to train and apply a machine learning model for scoring inside of Influencer Desktop. Stay tuned for more demo labs and updates to the application, and hope y'all learned something and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.